Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our distinguished participants from joining us from different parts of the world. On behalf of Eurasia Research, I warmly welcome you to the Bangkok Online Live International Conference held on 7th of July 2026. It is truly a pleasure to see researchers, academicians, scholars, and students from various countries gathered together on one global platform to share knowledge and innovative ideas. Today's conference brings together experts from diverse disciplines, and we are excited to begin this intellectual journey with insightful discussions, meaningful engagement, and global collaboration. I welcome you all, and I would like to introduce Eurasia Research in a nutshell.
You believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, and walk across the water. You feel defeated, falling on your knees and looking up for some hope tonight. You try to stand up, but you throw your hands up. You no longer have the strength to fight. You've seen too many sunsets, too many days ending in the darkest night. But on your own, you'll never know, you'll never know. If you move the highest mountain, the greatest oceans, walk across the water. Believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water. If you believe, they say that all you need is faith. But it's almost like you lost your way. Took a few wrong turns, took a few breaks, falling behind now, looking for grace. Cause you need someone to lift you up, yeah. Make right of the things you've done. Cause on your own, you'll never know, you'll never know. If you believe, move the highest mountains, across the greatest oceans, walk across the water, the water. Believe you can move the highest mountains, across the greatest oceans, walk across the water. If you believe, if you believe, you can do anything. You can do anything. You can do anything if you believe. If you believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water, the water. Believe you can move the highest mountains, cross the greatest oceans, walk across the water. If you believe.
My name is Dr. Lynn Shelley, and I'm an executive leadership consultant, full professor retired. I am currently teaching adjunct in the executive doctoral program at Boston College.
Welcome to Eurasia Research International Conference. With over more than 1 million satisfied members and associates spread across the globe, Eurasia Research is a scholarly association who have been working for nearly a decade. Eurasia Research has organized several successful international conferences, workshops, and training programs at various reputed institutions and grand venues. Eurasia has been tirelessly working for research world and have not stopped their endeavors even during difficult times and have presented research community with online platform which was safe and convenient method to continue their passion. We are an international community of researchers, practitioners, students, and educationists who aim to bring together worldwide researchers and professionals, encourage intellectual development, and to create opportunities for networking and collaborations. These objectives are achieved through academic networking, meetings, conferences, workshops, projects, research publications, academic awards, and scholarships. Some of our key highlights: we provide scholarships to deserving candidates to promote students and research scholars to participate in the international conference. Young Researcher Scholarship is provided in the form of a full registration fee waiver. We have a vast experience of publishing papers for more than 7 years. Our associate journals publish original papers, review papers, conceptual framework, analytical and simulation models, case studies, empirical research, technical notes, and book reviews. We cater to more than 30 plus themes in the area of teaching and education and have registered ISSN and have following renowned indexing Google Scholar, Crosscheck, Authenticate, Crossref, the Keeper's Registry, Scribit, Portico, Road, Directory of Open Access Scholarly Resources, OAI PMH, Registered Data Provider, PKP Index. We will soon be applying for Scopus 2. We have a wide network of 100 plus internationally acclaimed keynote across the globe who share their knowledge and guidance with our participants with open hands. We have a large number of community, we have a large number of committee members and advisors who support us, guide us through their expert opinions and decision-making capabilities. We couldn't have thought of reaching here without them. We also encourage our participants to connect with more than 15K plus followers on our social media platform, where they can share their knowledge, research, and interest. Join our Facebook group and be a part of the discussions by researchers and academicians. We also have several collaborations with universities, colleges, and institutes to better serve all interested and like minded intellectuals. With great enthusiasm and pride, we would like to request our participants to enjoy the benefits of our lifetime membership in just US $60. We have over 10,000 plus members from across the globe. We would like to share some of our past experiences with you. Thank you for your patience and valuable time. Moving forward with the conference. Welcome to Eurasia Research Bangkok Online Live International Conference, 7th of July 2026, 6:30 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Today we have participants from around Today we have participants and presenters from 6 countries around the world. We are broadcasting this conference on YouTube Live on multiple pages of Eurasia Research. The links for the live session are shared in the chat box. Today, I, Shinu Seni, is your host for online live conference. Moving ahead with our Terra President, Dr. Lynn M. Shelley. She is a higher education executive retired adjunct professor from Boston College, Chestnut Hill, MA, USA. Let's see what she has to share with us.
My name is Dr. Lynn Shelley, and I'm an executive leadership consultant, full professor, retired. I am currently teaching adjunct in the executive doctoral program at Boston College in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, and at the University of New England in Portland, Maine, in their doctoral program as well. I've been in the profession for 44 years as a teacher and as an administrator from grades pre-K through doctoral programs. And I consult with colleagues around the world in these areas of leadership and culture building and transformation and strategic planning. And my research is focused in areas such as that, not only in education, but crosses over into other disciplines that have common goals and common strategies that need attention and need to be moved forward in this ever-changing global world.
So, ma'am, the first question, we would love to hear about your research journey, how it's going, and the projects you are handling right now.
My research, my name is Dr. Lynn Shelley. I'm president of the Eurasia Terra group, and I'm very happy to be here. I have been doing some research and starting some writing about the leadership in this new global environment, transformative leadership in the new global environment that we are living in, and hoping that this research will help current and future leaders at every level in any type of an organization. It's very interesting because of the AI connection, because of the global impact that the cultures and the variables that are happening around the world are having on every organization.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing such delightful thoughts. And ma'am, my next question would be, could you please share with which paper you're working on that in this moment?
Transformative leadership in a global environment.
Okay, ma'am, good to know that. And ma'am, how do you manage to balance your teaching responsibilities alongside your research work as well?
Well, my balance is that I've always done work and research that I can use and apply to my administrative and consulting positions. Right now, I am an executive leadership consultant. So the research that I'm doing really applies to my role as president of Terra, but also in work that I do with colleagues that are still in practice, and I can help them along the way to enhance their leadership skills.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And ma'am, do you travel internationally as part of your research work?
I travel to the Terra conferences as the president, and usually I do a keynote. I've been in education for 44 years, every level. Most recently, the Dean of Graduate and Professional Education at LaSalle University in Newton, Massachusetts, United States. And prior to that, I was Dean of Professional Leadership Programs at Endicott College in Beverly, Massachusetts, United States. And my main travel was with Eurasia Terra as the president and keynote speakers. So that's what I have done. I've also done other conferences, but once I became president, I felt like I needed to really give my focus to the organization, to Eurasia Terra, and to be able to impact around the world. Most recently, I sat on a dissertation committee at Boston College, Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, with a vice president from a university in Russia.
Okay.
And she was trying, her dissertation was focused on changing culture to adapt to the global world. And Olga did a fantastic job. And of course, when I have those kinds of opportunities, I talk about this wonderful organization so that we get a presence around the world.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for sharing the details with us. And ma'am, my last question would be, what advice would you give to early career researchers, like the beginners, and what advice would you like to give them?
The advice is multifaceted. I think that there are several things that they have to keep at the forefront of their minds. That research that they do should always be something that can impact their work, their organization, and or the world. So it has to be current. So to that point, they have to be proactive in where they're focusing their research and knowing what's happening in the world all the time in their certain professions, if you will. They have to add, they have to value add to their professions. So that would be very important. They have to have an open mind that their research, especially if it's quantitative, might not necessarily bear out the results that they want. And that's okay, because that shows what really is impacting their work and their organizations and the world. And the third thing that I would do is have them network with people and colleagues like myself and other people doing work, not necessarily in their own professions, but if it's a crossover kind of focus for research that crossovers different professions, that they network and become familiar and have standing meetings with other researchers, because that can be so rich and can help people so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving the advice, and it will be very helpful for them.
Actually, I'm teaching professional ethics as a course to my students here who come from.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn Shelley, for sharing such an delightful thoughts and experience with us. Moving ahead with our eminent speaker, Kumar Neeraj Sachdev, Associate Professor of Philosophy, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences, Pilani, Rajasthan, India. Let's see what he has to share with us.
Different background, engineering, science, and they are required to do 3 humanities courses in the institute for their degree program. And there is a pool of more than 30 courses from humanities. And professional ethics that I teach, that is one course. The other course that I'm teaching, that is applied philosophy. And CSR is a topic in professional ethics course that I have been teaching, and it's a mutual learning. Whatever they are that we asking and that we're contributing, whatever I am able to contribute with the help of text material and my own reflection on that. So that is somewhere growing up, because now I'm into my 26th year of this teaching. So what I do, I take the that way topic generally from my teaching, and I take it to the level of research. So I was always that way interested in CSR also as a subject. And somewhere I was facing certain confusions, ambiguities in the that way understanding of CSR as a topic. And the students were also that way contributing that this is not clear, that is not clear. So there are like, because on the one side you are saying CSR is uh, good as an ethical initiative, and on the other side you are saying no, managers should not be doing CSR. They are employed for profit only. So that kind of conflict was always there. That was creating ambiguity. That as a business manager, should I be really doing CSR, or should I be simply caring for profit of my company? So somewhere perceptual ambiguity or definitional ambiguity or maybe argumentative ambiguity, that was indicating that particular fundamental conflict. So somewhere then I kept on studying, talking to them, and then I could that way finally do some part of it and present in the conference in the form of presenting that set of ambiguities, and then suggesting that with the help of study material and thinking and contribution of students, then I talked to the people in the conference on 10th July this last month in Bangkok, where it was a matter of exposure that I could talk to them and talk about that yes, there can be a solution to that also. That if a manager is caring for all the stakeholders instead of only shareholders who are constituting only one group of stakeholders, if he is caring for all stakeholders, employees, customers, local community, then definitely that can be a proper approach to CSR that can help him to overcome the conflict or the ambiguities also. So then, in brief, that is what I was just trying to do. And anyway, any research for that matter is continuing. So maybe something more will be coming in the future also. Madam, the challenge is something like um, I have to work at three levels as a faculty. I have to work for the students as a teacher. I have to work as a researcher. Then I have to work as an employee for certain, because all employees are contributing to the working of the institute also in different capacities. So then somewhere the challenge is that how to really balance all the three sets of responsibilities. Because I have to do research also, then I have to work for the institute also, then I have to teach students also. So it's, and then apart from that, I have to be that way caring for myself and my family also. So that is also always posing the challenge that how to really maintain that balance. It is always a challenge. Even in my 26th year, I'm still taking it as a challenge that because if I do something for this, then that part is always there to take care of. So that is one. The other challenge that I may mention is that um, how to really accommodate what students are saying into your research. Because I'm always interested in carrying forward the teaching work into the research work. That is somewhere I am always interested. So how to really, it's always a challenge how to really accommodate the observations which are coming from engineering the students, science students. They are saying something for CSR, for example. I have to now accommodate that in my research work. How I have to look for answers to their queries, which can be answered in my research, and I can go back to them and maybe that way deal with them better. The somehow coming together of my teaching and research. So that is somewhere the challenge that I always face, and somewhere that way I maybe sometime I enjoy also. It should be there. I philosophically begin with the motivation is that I get to learn something more. I get to learn something new. That is always a motivation for me because learning itself is a matter of pleasure. That you feel more comfortable in your that way approach in your thinking. And then second motivation is that I am able to respond to the students better. That is always a motivation for me, that I want to go back to students as a better person, as a better researcher, as a better teacher. So that is always a motivation. That it's somewhere I am thinking for that always. So I would be saying that yes, young researchers are doing really well because they are appearing to be more updated. They are more that they eager to learn. They are always eager to participate and that way do well. But still, like if I say something to them that yes, nowadays with the advancement of technology, they should not be over dependent on technology. Because sometimes, like for example, you can enjoy reading a hard copy of a book also. Instead of all the time reading from a screen, you should be, reading from the book also. But that will give you a different, maybe experience altogether and a different pleasure of learning also. And then the second thing that I have also noted, and I was talking to my daughter who is into MA clinical psychology, and she's also a young researcher. Sometimes we discuss, and we were sharing the point that the young lot is generally focusing on the recent research as far as possible. Maybe in the last 5 years, what has gone on the basis of that, they try to produce something in their research. It's good to be updated. It's good to be that way sticking to the updated thing. But we were discussing that there is always a need to go back in the past also. Because we should not be shying away from what has gone in the remote past. What Aristotle was saying, what Sigmund Freud was saying. We love discussing Sigmund Freud, me and my daughter sometime, going back in the remote past and then making use of that in your current research instead of focusing all the time on the very, that way latest research only that has gone, and then you focus on that and produce your research based upon that. I would be saying that try to go back as far as possible and try to dig deeper also for your maybe better outcome of learning and better outcome of your research. It was my fourth that way presentation in Eurasia Research sponsored conference. Uh, like uh, two times I have done it online, Seoul, South Korea, and then Bali, Indonesia. I couldn't go. I just managed online. I was given the permission because it was like that. More that both options were there. Then before that, I had gone long back to this Malaysia also myself, physically attending that happened. And this time in July, I could go for the fourth time to Bangkok, Thailand. It is always a matter of that way pleasure of listening to scholars, researchers from different parts of the world who are speaking in different areas of humanities and social sciences. It is always a matter of learning. It's always a matter of exposure, listening to people from so many different parts of the world. Like in this time, if I remember, when I was there in Bangkok, people were there from Thailand, China, Malaysia, Germany, USA, Japan. So it was really a matter of that way learning that people are speaking about their research in their areas of humanities and social sciences, speaking something that is happening in my teaching in Japan or something happening in the agriculture sector in Thailand. So those things were really, sometimes they are giving to you altogether a different exposure. Definitely, it's a matter of great learning, and I would definitely be thanking Dr. Charles also, that he's the organizer who is interacting in the email and helping to organize so many things. And then I would be thanking Dr. Patama also, who was chairing the session this time and organizing the whole event. She was from Thailand and she also presented herself, her work also. But then she was so helpful in so many things. And then she ensured that we were able to, that way, given we were able to speak properly in the turn that was allocated. We were given that help also for everything. In fact, for food also, for this and that. In fact, I remember that when my that way food was not there, she offered her food to me. That let me wait for the food. More will come. You take this. So you remember such gestures also. That's such a kind, and well-known researchers when they behave as good organizers also. So it's always a matter of, that way you feel good about it, that you feel like going back to such conferences again and again when such kind of atmosphere is provided by, that way, such platforms. So I once again thank Dr. Charles, like, for giving to me this kind of opportunity, and I would be definitely going in future also. That it's always definitely me looking forward to.
If you're 25 and going to a MBA college today, you must be some kind of idiot.
I completely agree with Nikhil. I truly believe that in the next 5 years, MBA programs are going to die. The reason for that is the skills they are teaching.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar Neeraj Sachdev, for your great experience, journey, and thoughts. Moving ahead, conference schedule. Session 1, keynote talk, 6:45 to 7:30 a.m. GMT. Session 2, team activity and photo session, 7:30 to 7:45 a.m. GMT. Session 3, technical talk, 7:45 a.m. onwards. Rename your Zoom account with your full name in English. This will help us to record your presence. You may ask your questions related to the presentation in the chat section while the presentations are going on. All the certificates, receipts, and proceedings will be sent to the participants within a week on their mail IDs. The proceedings will include the full papers and abstracts accepted for the conference. Moving ahead in the publication process. The publication process starts once the registration process is complete. The author needs to send their papers, consent forms, and reviewer details on the email ID, that is convener@eurasiaresearch.info. The abstracts and papers received will be first published in the Conference Book of Proceedings online. Only the selected papers will be moved in our publication timeline. The review reports will be sent to the author once the review process is over. The final stage of publication starts after receiving the revised papers from the authors. Please note that the abstract publication process takes around 15 to 20 days after the conference dates, and the full paper takes around 2 to 3 months if all the editorial guidelines are followed within the given deadline. Let's welcome our first keynote speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Patama Satwegi, Director, Master of Communication Arts Program, PU Academic Top Project Leader, Lecturer, Department of Public Relations, School of Communication Arts, Bangkok University. Our topic is Silent Pressure, a comparison of students in exams and projects. I think we don't have Dr. Patama with us, so please allow me a moment to present on her behalf.
You're sure you know your third grade teacher's name. It's like you're hovering over it in your mind, but it just won't materialize. Researchers call this tantalizing torment a tip of the tongue state. Begin with a question. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the conference, and thank you very much for having me as the keynote speaker for this conference. Let me introduce myself just a bit. My name is Associate Professor Dr. Patama Satwegi. I'm currently the director of the Master of Communication Arts programs in Digital Marketing Communications we will change the names of the programs to the Master of Arts programmed in data-driven marketing and communications. Actually, my background is about media and communication, but I mean, my occupation, my full-time profession is as a teacher, instructor, or coach, and also like the independent study and the thesis supervisor. So I think I have experience about the teaching over 20 years. And I think about psychological issues and also well-being and health should be kept in mind always in order to develop our students. So what I'm going to talk to you today entitled Silent Pressure, Comparisons of Students in Exams and Projects. I think you have experienced a lot about, a teaching method or the teaching approach in order to evaluate the student knowledge, applicability, and also the performance, etc. But sometimes, even me myself, sometimes while we are trying to find out the evaluation methods in order to evaluate and assess our students' performance, we kind of, barely think about how the students feel, think, and also face when they are to be in like examinations room, or they are assigned to do like project-based or even like the problem-based learning. So these presentations, I mean, I'm not going to present a research project, but I mean, I'm here to share some kinds of the experience, and I would like to gain some experience from you as well as the experts in teaching and also in education. Try to solve the problems altogether, not just only like physical problems, and also like the mental health problems of the situation of the students as well. So let's begin with questions about how do exams and projects differently affect students' performance, behavior, and well-being. One thing that I have to mention to you at this stage, the AI-powered images were generated and also created for illustrations only. And also I have used like the AI tools to refine and enhance the contents of these presentations while integrating and preserving my own teaching experience as well. Well, let's have a look at like the definitions and also the scope of the exams and also the projects that I mean to for these presentations. So let's have a look first for the exams. What I mean by this is that for taking the exam, students have to finish that exam within a time limited conditions. So for example, they have to finish within 1 hour, 3 hours, whatsoever. So they have got like time pressures. Moreover, they have to follow the rules and also the regulations, especially in terms of like the closed book or the open book examinations. So they have to restrict or allow access to the materials. Moreover, supervised setting. So the classroom, the exam have to be taking place at a classroom environment or the examination halls already. Then the student, sometimes they have to take the written examinations, or they are allowed to type the response on the computer. Moreover, in terms of like the seating arrangement, pre-assigned seating is manage. So often the student have been arranged to sit by the student ID, but actually when they are sitting in the classroom, I mean in a normal classroom, they prefer to sit with a close friends rather than, arranged by the student ID. And in terms of like the performance evaluation, we have to accept that the exams evaluate and assess individual performance only. So no collaboration skills or talents are evaluated. Last but not least, they have to follow, as I said, mentioned earlier, they have to follow the strict rules and also the regulations, academic integrity, conducts, and also the procedure. So these are like the 7 main definitions and the scopes for taking exam in a sense. At the same time, for the project, I've found like 8 definitions and also the scope that I have experienced while giving or assigning the project, especially like the project-based or the problem-based learning to the students. First of all, they have got a longer time to finish their project. However, they have to respect the real world deadlines. Like, for example, they are assigned to finish, like, for example, 1 month. Of course, they got like a longer time, but they still have got like the limited time to finish. Otherwise, they can't submit their assignment or their works to the client on time. So longer time, longer duration, but still time pressure. Secondly, of course, students have got like the freedom to use resources and investigate solutions. So it's kind of the open book, not just like the closed book, and they have to explore the world themselves. They have to explore into like the internet or even any other sources to help them to find out like the information and also the details. The third one is about the client or problem-based focus. So they are going to experience what we call like experiential learning, addressing like authentic needs or the cases. They're gonna meet up with the real clients, and the real clients gonna have like the real brief, okay? And then just give to the students such the real brief, like for example, the pain points, the communication objective that they want, the target audience that they want, and also like the KPI or all the solutions that they want the students to improve and to create a campaign and to give like the professional pitching. That mentions that this totally different from the exam, from taking the exam, is that the students have to give like the presentations, or in the real world or the business world, we call it the professional pitching of all the outcome or deliverables within a time limit. Like for example, 10 minutes. But sometimes maybe clients have got a limited time, so they have to use like the strategies, for example, elevator pitch, or maybe just to give like a very brief presentations, what they have found so far, what they create so far, in order to persuade, to convince the clients to buy their campaigns, creative campaigns, or their products. Of course, furthermore, the students have got like the space for working. I mean, flexible working environment. They can sit anywhere that they want. They can go to like the cafe in order to brainstorm, have a chat with their colleagues and their friends in order to find out the ways or the solutions and deliverables to give to like the clients. So they are in like less formal and more self-directed environment. That is said to you, examinations is to evaluate individual performance. But in contrast, for projects, they have to work in a group. They have to collaborate with the colleagues or the members in a group. So I mean I give like you the examples that I've experienced for my teaching. So usually we set the group around 3 to 10 students. So from the small group up to like the large group. But I mean it identify like a problem later, even though it helps students to develop like the soft skill, especially for collaboration skills, communication skills. But sometimes, especially for the larger groups, they have to face with, some student, they don't want to give or to pay attention to this, to help develop this project and so on. So yeah, pros and cons for, for the project, for involving in a project. Also, they still have a space. I mean, but the space is or the guidelines shaped by the client brief. So criteria and rules set by the task or the problems. But one thing is that such kinds of the criteria or the rules are based upon, the industry experts evaluations or the real case evaluation. And last but not least, what I have found so far is that we talk a lot that our duty or our responsibility should be shifted from to teach, so from teaching, from instruction to being like a coach, okay, to help support the students, asking the open questions for driving the students' critical or analytical thinking. But still, in this case, it's like the student-led learning process. So instructors right now, they have to play as like the coach or the mentor. This source, Michelle 2026. And once again, reference is down there. You can have a look. This website, these persons have done like a survey with the student aged 13 to 16. Okay. And they found that 94% of the students during this age experiencing stress. And there are several reasons and rationales behind this kind of the silent pressure. And I put the first one in the yellow color and in like the big one, because myself, I'm really surprised, and sometimes I don't think about this issue, but it's real, it's factual. Students tend to prioritize outcomes like, for example, grades, rankings, and external expectations over genuine learning. Yeah, of course, they are living in like society. They got like the social pressure, peer pressures, and so on. So this reason is really surprising, but when reading it, it's not surprising because it's a fact. It's authentic, to be honest. So apart from this point, the student fears of poor results, student fears of failure, student fear of imperfection, expectation from parents and also society, pressure from peers, and also comparing with others. And there should be more than that. So what they found from this the report about like the psychological well-being and also mental health and also the health, physical, both physical and also psychological issues among the students who got like much of pressures. And these are like the silent pressures. First of all, disturb or reduce sleep in the period leading up to the examinations. Intrusive racing thoughts accompanied by increased heart rate, emotional instability, including tearfulness and irritability, difficulty concentrating, and noticeable lapse in memory, experience of helplessness, and diminished self-esteem, significant changes in appetite, either decrease or increase, engaging in excessive amount of study or work. So we have to be very careful once again about these issues because what we what we assign is gonna impact both of physical and psychological of the students silently without sometimes without notice, without thinking beforehand. Well, how to achieve and to encourage our students to achieve the goals for sure. For any reasons they would like to, the students would like to, to graduate, to be successful in their life, to get a job, to be promoted. Of course, they have to pass, educational criteria, educational standards and whatsoever. But how are we going to bring them to have like the happy smile, the happy life? This was Andrea Ruskin University 2024. Actually, it's not like a quote, it's just explanations, but I think it's a good quote, to be honest. So I just put the explanations into like a quote, saying that top athletes use a technique of imagining success to help them achieve success. But it's useful for necessarily like the distant learners, but just for learner students to remind themselves of what it takes to succeed, particularly when facing project exams and years of the study. So get passionate. I think sometimes we have to be like not just only like the academic coach, but we have to be like the life coach for the students as well, to strengthen the psychological and physical status and help them to get through all the struggles and obstacles, to for them to get through like the educational journeys. So thank you very much. I think once again, this is not like the research studies, but it would be like inspirational presentation that we as the educators need to think about it carefully. I believe that you guys have considered about this. I've done these presentations, why I mean, remind myself as well when I teach students, assign the responsible jobs that the students have to do, because I apply both of the exams and also projects, because I can see like the pros and cons for both of them. And if any other evaluation methods or the approach to access the students' performance, but why giving them these kinds of the tasks as you monitor how good or bad or how stressful they are, and trying to find out the way to give like the better solutions. I'm not like the perfect or the good teachers or instructors, but I try my best to make them happy and avoid like the silent pressure that it could help, it could happen. So thank you very much for your attention. So if you
Thank you so much, Dr. Patama, for sharing your valuable thoughts and your research journey with us. And please put your questions in the chat box. It will be answered by the speaker, as she is not here, but we will definitely share your questions with her over email. Moving forward, team activity and photo session. Let's proceed towards our team building activity. Sometimes we miss the opportunity of connection and linkage with fellow participants of the conference. This team activity is to encourage interaction among all the participants. One by one, we will share the views and solutions on the topic of discussion and also will be conducting a photo session during the same. Topic of discussion. This is what happens in your brain when you can't recall a word. Video credit and copyrights by Sela Wright. Before I start the team activity video, I would like everyone to turn on their camera for the team activity photo. Thank you everyone for the photo session. Moving forward with our team activity video.
I got one challenge for you. Try Whisper Flow once, one time, and I promise you'll understand why I haven't typed a full sentence in 6 months. Next time you open ChatGPT, don't type your prompt.
You're sure you know your third grade teacher's name. It's like you're hovering over it in your mind, but it just won't materialize. Researchers call this tantalizing torment a tip of the tongue state, and it's something everyone experiences. But what's actually happening when a word gets caught here? And how can you best get it unstuck? Most of the time, our brains seamlessly summon words from vast stores of knowledge, pairing their meaning and sounds and stringing them into sentences. But in a tip of the tongue moment, this retrieval process derails, and there's the sensation of remembering the word, but the struggle to recall it. In these moments, on top of the usual brain activity associated with word retrieval, we also see other brain regions light up, like the conflict detecting anterior cingulate, which generates that urgently frustrating feeling. It's unclear whether the target word is directly detected and just not successfully recalled, or associations are simply helping the brain infer that it has the word. The reality could also be some combination of these hypotheses, but the experience is pretty consistent with how psycholinguistic theorists think we mentally organize language-related information, going from the word's meaning and associations to how it sounds. Some researchers think that the last layer of information, sound, might be the most vulnerable to glitches. Lots of things seem to influence how likely you are to enter a tip of the tongue state, all the way from what kinds of words are involved to your experiences and environment. For example, tip of the tongue states occur most frequently with proper nouns, infrequently used words, and ones that are more abstract and less visual, like idiosyncrasy or revelation. Cognitively, recognizing a face and associating it with general information, like someone's profession, is often easy, while names tend to trip us up. And retrieval of unintended words is also a common problem. Like if you're trying to summon the star of the Wizard of Oz's name and keep getting stuck on Dorothy instead of Judy Garland. In these situations, the words seem to work as distracting red herring-like blockers in the retrieval pathway. And one study found that stressful test conditions made participants report more tip-of-the-tongue experiences, suggesting that environmental conditions, including stress, can exacerbate them. But some people tend to have more tip-of-the-tongue moments than others. This seems to be true for people who speak multiple languages, perhaps because they know more than one word to describe the same thing. So, a word in one language might become an interfering blocker for the target word in another. This seems to be especially true when someone's switching between languages, but it might also depend on their fluency. One study suggested that people who learned their second language before age 5 had fewer tip-of-the-tongue stumbles. And sometimes even just hearing a language participants didn't know has proven to be enough to increase their tip-of-the-tongue incidence. They also seem to rise with age, perhaps from a cognitive decline in speech-related brain areas, greater accumulation of knowledge to search through, or a combination of both. But while tip-of-the-tongue states may feel like the brain is failing, they seem to have a positive function. Words don't usually go past the point of no return and get permanently forgotten, so much as they tend to get tougher to access. That tough to shake, tip of the tongue feeling of impending success just around the corner may help motivate us and make us more likely to remember. And researchers have observed that participants in tip of the tongue states are more likely to spend more time and effort searching for answers. One method for getting something off the tip of your tongue is cueing. This means leaning into the clues your brain surfaces, like associated memories and letters. For example, if you're trying to remember the name of the ancient city with the legendary hanging gardens, you might recall they're one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world and run through the alphabet to see if any letters stand out. Because tip-of-the-tongue moments don't seem to be just your brain babbling, but perhaps trying to jog its own extensive memory, where your 3rd grade teacher's name is surely stored somewhere. The ability to express yourself with clarity and confidence can have a major impact on your life.
Before I move forward, I would like to ask everyone if they have any thoughts or opinion to share. No one. Okay. So moving forward with our first presenter, Devi Lestri. She's from Thammasat Institute of Area Studies, Thammasat University, Jakarta, Indonesia. Her topic is navigating technology security dilemma in the US-China relations, Indonesia's perspective. Devi.
Yes, thank you. Can I present directly now?
Yes.
I'll share the screen. Can you see my screen now? All right. First of all, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Good afternoon to every one of you. First of all, I would like to clarify, actually, I'm from the Thammasat University in Bangkok, Thailand, but now I live in Jakarta. So I just finishing my master degree, and this is the last step for the graduation. All right. I'm going to present my paper regarding the technology competition between the US and China and how the impact to Indonesia as middle power or developing countries. I am interested in this topic because I saw the tensions and the increasing competition between the US and China, especially in the critical technology like artificial intelligence and semiconductor industry, because these are now is called as the building block of the modern economy. We see that the US government implemented various decoupling policies focusing on, but not limited to, the high technology sectors to contain or to slow down the China's progress on technology advancement. And in response to that, China see this as a threat to its national interest and also implement some countermeasures. So the spiral reactions between US and China show similar pattern to the security dilemma. And while I found quite many studies about this topic, about the relation between the US and China, I found a gap uh, about the impact to the rest of the world, especially for developing countries like Indonesia or others like Thailand and middle power or developing countries. So I wish to answer this question from my research. Why does this competitions become a security dilemma? How did technology security dilemma affect Indonesia, and what are the strategies for Indonesia to mitigate the impact? I use the neorealism perspective to analyze this issue. As you all know that we are in the and anarchy system, and states are in the self-help situations. So with the dual use of technology, whether that it can be used for the civilian purposes, you can use the chip in your mobile phone, but at the same time, this kind of technology can also be used in the military equipments or military system. So the situation creates the mutual suspicion and distrust between the US and China, and trigger the measures and countermeasures, and continue escalation that heighten the tensions and also fragmentations. And Indonesia sits in the middle of this situation. And of course, it is strategically vulnerable because it still needs foreign technology and also has very limited ecosystem to build its own technology. I use the quantitative approach for this research, and I look into the various documents issued by the government and also reports from international organizations, think tanks, and journals to get the external perspective on these issues. And I use the data from the data of growth and demand of the semiconductor and AI. I see at the global market share, structure of the global supply chain, workforce market and talent distribution, patent registrations, also budget and funding, and also investment on this area, artificial intelligence and the semiconductor industry. So here are several key findings from my study. First, the structure of the global supply chains in the semiconductor is dominated by the US and its allies, especially in the upstream and midstream, means in the design of the chip and the fabrications of the chips. While China, on the other hand, is dominant in the downstream industry, means in the assembly and the manufacture into the end product. Taiwan and South Korea holds 40% of the chip fabrication capacity, means there is a vulnerable situation in the global supply chains. And there is also a huge gap in supply and demand for China because it only produces like 3.2% of the global supply, while it needs 34.5%. There is also shortage in talents, and because this is a very highly specialized industry, so it is not easy to move from one stage to other stage. And in the AI front, China has tripled the US AI patent application. However, US still lead AI investment, but it is dominated by the private investment, while China investment is more government driven. And if China continue to accelerate its investment, it could catch up with the US by 2030. On Indonesia, I found that the semiconductor industry is still very at the early stage. It is focused at the back end on assembly, testing, and packaging. However, Indonesia has a robust demand on electronics, on consumer goods. So it is predicted that by 2045, it will need 199 billion units of chips. Indonesia also has a huge reserve of chips material like silica, bauxite, zinc, and so on. And it is just start the downstreaming industry domestically. But at this moment, the production cost is still high, so it needs a lot of chips from other countries. Indonesia, of course, has limited budget and need a lot of investment, including for the silica downstreaming only. It needs 46.16 billion US dollar. And there is also problem with the infrastructure, with the internet connectivity, and also the gap in talent because we don't have, Indonesia don't have high number of graduates in STEM. And there is also problem with scattered data system causing inefficiency and bureaucratic procedure in order to share the data. And so from this information, we can see that China actually vulnerable because it depends on the import from other country for the chips. And it's tried to self-reliance and innovations by increasing and accelerate its domestic semiconductor development, increasing R&D spending, and give a lot of incentive to the private sectors. Also, China imposed some export control and trying to invest in many countries to secure the critical materials that is important for the semiconductor industry. And US see the progress of China as a security threat and impose export control. As we can see, if you will remember a few years ago that they framed Huawei as a security risk and challenged them in a legal battle. And then the US also give pressure to countries to exclude China in the supply chain, and it increased number of entity lists, watch list, from one only company in 2020 to 140 Chinese companies or entities in 2024. So as I mentioned before, that states are in the anarchy and self-help situation. This become the strong incentive for China to build unilateral capabilities. The dual use of technology increase the uncertainty and creating mutual distrust, create escalations between the US and China, and these countries are in the zero-sum competitions. This is the classic security dilemma dynamics in the technology domain. And of course, the global supply chain now become fragmented. What is this situation means for Indonesia? Of course, it is increased Indonesia vulnerability because it's still highly dependent on the foreign technology. As I mentioned before, that we don't have the product. We still need, we still rely on the import. And there's also issues with ethical and framework differences, causing the alienation, increased cost and complexity for our industry to join the global supply chains, and also problem with interoperability. There are also potential barrier to innovations because of the export ban, migration policies, limited cross-border collaboration. So overall, there's also geopolitical risk, of course, because of the intertwined economic and security issues. Indonesia is facing strategic pressure. And also there is policy constraints because it also needs to keep balance in its foreign policy. In conclusion, to wrap up, I think the technology competition follow the security dilemma logic. The interdependence between countries does not eliminate the security concern. It's only making it more complex, actually. And the US-China rivalry disrupt global technology diffusions. And of course, Indonesia is significantly affected. We have the constraint, but I think Indonesia still a lot of potential. And since it is not a passive actor, there are still room to maneuver. Here are some recommendations that I propose. First, Indonesia need to advocate for self-restraint by major powers, continue calling for de-escalation for China and US, and then Indonesia need to actively strategically participate in norm setting and standard AI, and try to integrate this technology issue into broader economic diplomacy strategy. Indonesia also needs to establish a clear and consistent domestic regulations that align with global standards. So it will easier for Indonesia to integrate to global supply chain, and it needs to avoid formal alignment with either technology bloc and diversify its partners. And of course, last one, Indonesia needs to contribute to regime building using a various regional and multilateral platform like ASEAN, G20, and other organizations. With that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Devi, for a wonderful presentation. And I would request all our participants, if they have any questions, they can just put it in the chat section and presenter will answer in itself. Moving forward with our next presenter, Mr. Sai Minzo from Thammasat Institute of Area Studies, Master of Arts in Asia Pacific Studies, Thammasat University, Bangkok. Topic: Understanding the Emergence of Myanmar Parallel Government from 2021 coup to Civil War. Mr. Sai.
Sorry, I'm still looking for the audio. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, yes.
And can you also see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Hello,
Can you do it full screen?
sorry,
Can you do it in full screen?
full screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
Okay, wait just 1 second. Is that okay right now?
Yes, yes.
But I don't know why my slide is not moved.
Just use the
It's
arrow
stuck in.
option in the keyboard.
My God. Okay. Hello, my name is Simon Zo. I'm from Myanmar and studying at Thammasat Institute of Area Study as a second-year student. But I just complete my MA thesis in April, and this paper is the same title with my thesis, and extract this from my thesis. So I'm glad to see you all, and thank you so much for Eurasia for accepting for the presentations. And the contents that I would like to present for today, just briefly, problem statements, objective, and research questions. And I will also cover a little bit about the literature reviews, particularly the social media and political activisms, and theoretical framework, social media mobilization theory and reinforcement theory, and research gap, and methodology and research and discussions. And then topics, the name of the topic is the understanding the emergence of Myanmar parallel government from 2021 coup to civil wars. We have a new coup in 2021, 4 or 5 years ago, and then what happened in our countries after the military seized the power. People across the countries come up and protest and demonstrate the military because they do not satisfy with the coup. And at the same time, the civilians governments also, Aung San Suu Kyi political party and her cabinet member, or most of the senior political party leaders are detained by the military. That's why they just most of the supporters and the voters for 2020 elections dissatisfied with the military coup. They come up and against the military coup, and finally they form the parallel governments. They challenge the military. Along with they also formed the armed resistance to challenge the military. This is the illustrations, the picture of the what happened in our country from 2021 to 2026 as of today. You can see military coup in 2021, and then students and civil servants, they start protests and they promote, they involve in the social media protests online, offline. And then finally, they form the parallel governments. And we also have the economic consequence. You can see here, foreign direct investments are out from our country. And in the problem statements, I would like to highlight and emphasize that we have two main conflicts influencing Myanmar political dynamics for 60 years. The first one is there's sorry. Oh my God. Why is not come back? So, the first one is there's a power rivalry between the Burmese majority ethnic group, Burmese intra-conflicts. And the second one is we have the problem with the rigid centralizations and non-localizations in our country. But in this conflict, 2021 coup is concentrate on power rivalry between the Burmese conflict between the National Army and the Aung San Suu Kyi political party. And the problem statements after the coups, expel lawmaker form the national unity governments and armed resistance. Armed resistance PDF, and then university students, celebrities, civil servants, worker, people across the nation protect the military through speed force protects on social media, and then finally through armed resistance. Former lawmaker, non-violent and resilience against the gender before turning into armed resistance, massive burden for the territory connected state, and the military and the MPG regime ongoing combat, and no sign of reconciliation, no signs of mediator as of today. And this new armed conflict fatality have existed more than 100,000 people. And research questions, my research question is how do the parallel governments and its supporters struggle to gain power and utilize social media to achieve the legitimacy after the military coup? And the significance of the research is following present political trends and the shifting in political dynamics, and study address gap with social media theory, examine how the NUG and its supporters are mobilized. In the research objectives, there are three main objectives: to understand how the NUG and its supporters construct their political goals and political activity through social media, and then to understand their challenge. In the part of the literature reviews, mostly I covers social media and political activism, and then social media definitions. But if we look at the social media definitions as of today, there's no consensus or common agreements among the scholar and researcher, and also the algorithm. And I also include the social media in Myanmar in the literature review, but I do not include in the present paper. And I also include about the telecommunication operator in our country. We have 4 main telecommunication operator. Number one is MPG and Mytel, Ooredoo and Telenor. These are four main telecommunication operator, but the first two are operated and run by military enterprise, and Ooredoo and Telenor are private owned, but they are also close with the military official. And in the gap of the research, recent academic journals provides insight about the NUG, CRBH, and UCC, and their federal democracy chapter, and then CDMs, civil disobedience movements, and about people defense force. But this study explores social media theory, and recent study haven't employed to examine these theory in this context. The NUG and related committee, I mean the CRBH and UCC, the alliance depend heavily on digital platform to engage with their audience. And I choose to apply the mobilization theory from the social media theory, and the second one is the reinforcement theory. There are two theories I apply in this research paper. This is the conceptual framework, and military coup, then protests, and social media, and national unity governments, the legitimacy and power, and mobilization theory and reinforcement theory. And in the methodology and research designs, I apply the qualitative method and documentary analysis because it is difficult to assess the national unity governments, their minister, their presidents, and their leader, because they all are, I believe, at the Thai Burma border or in the jungles. It's quite difficult to contact and to reach and to approach. And primary source includes the official website of the NUG and the report reported from NGO, and report issued by the NUG constitute primary sources, including the reported from International Crisis Group, Myanmar Peace Monitor, and the World Bank and UNDP as well. In the part of the discussion, there are numerous topics. You can see here about 14 topics, but in this paper, I only covers about the creation of the national unity government here. The rest are related to how the NUG apply the social media to mobilize the audience and to support them and to gain the power. And my findings. So since the COP's ongoing political crisis, the order I have been prompt to address the following questions: how the NUG and its supporters struggle to gain power and utilize social media to achieve legitimacy. I find that the NUG and its supporter diffusing idea what interact and struggle through social media to win, to fight for the legitimacy, well, effective. I think I find that's a highly spotlight, maybe because of the socio-economic status in our country. And 5 key findings include people changing public views on social media terminology, mobilizing diaspora and locals for crowdfunding, and organizing protests against state-owned enterprise, and Myanmar UN ambassador advocating for human rights, and removing military-linked social media accounts. This is 5 key findings that I include in my paper. For instance, changing public view on social media terminologies. For instance, we can see that obviously when the military announced the CRPH and then the NUG is a terrorist organization, they immediately hit back the military as a terrorist organization at the same time, and people come up on the social media and support. And this is and also how the NUG and its supporter mobilize and that diaspora and local for crowdfunding they collect a lot of money from the West in several countries from the migrants in Thailand, from Singapore, and also from United States, contributed to crowdfunding to arm resistance in our country. And key takeaway for today. So this 2021 political protest can conclude that's the longest and protest both on social media and offline from 2021 to as of today. And additionally, nonviolent protest has transformed into armed resistance, emerging as a new parallel governments, and the restrictions by law and the use of internet still cannot fully stop the protests. And we cannot underestimate the power of social media. And whether the gender will be granted legitimacy by ASEAN and UN or not. If so, the gender is beneficial and not necessary to take care attending ICJ course, as they have massive budget to defense in the course as well as the UN. No matter how international accuse of them the war crimes or crime against humanity and genocide in the past, and whether the NUG and PDF will become stronger again within the next 10 years, these remain to be answered. And the next study, I think the researcher can focus on people defense force and the use of drone in resistant force until right now. So this is my presentations for today. I think this I cover everything within 15 minutes. Thank you very much for Eurasia.
Thank you, Mr. Sai, for your wonderful presentation. And moving forward, I would request all our participants, if they have any questions, they can just put it in the chat box and the speaker will answer in the chat box itself. Our next presenter, Ayub Melinda, ICT Business, Faculty of Economics and Business, Telkom University, Bandung, Indonesia. Topic, Strategic Innovation Model for the Sustainability of MSMEs of Pasar Baru Trade Center, Bandung, Indonesia. Ayub Melinda. Hello. Please unmute.
Can I present now?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to present my research today. My name is Melinda. The title of my research is Strategic Innovation Model for the Sustainability of MSMEs at Pasar Baru Trade Center, Bandung, Indonesia. In this presentation, I will explain the background of the study, the research methodology, the main findings, and the contribution of this research of MES sustainability. Okay, let's begin with the background. So, Pasar Baru Trade Center is one of the largest traditional trade center in Bandung with approximately 4,200 kiosks. However, change in customer behavior and the rapid growth of online shopping have significantly affected business activity in this market. Many MSMEs have experienced a 30 to 40% decline in revenue, and approximately 35% of the kiosks are currently vacant. Although digital technology has become increasingly important, many MSMEs still rely on traditional selling method and have not fully utilized digital platform in their business operation. Previous study have mainly focused on digital adoption and business performance. However, there is still a limited understanding of how strategic innovation help transform digital capability into long-term business sustainability. Therefore, this study aims to address the research gap. And next is this research based on the resource-based view or RBV. According to RBV, sustainable competitive advantage is created through valuable organizational research and capability. In this study, platform capability represent an important organization research, while strategic innovation act as capability that transform this research into sustainable business performance. Based on this perspective, this research examines the relationship among digital barriers, platform capability, strategic innovation, and MSMES sustainability. Okay, next is methodology. Based on the literature review and research framework, this study examines how digital adoption influence strategic innovation and sustainability among MSMES. To explore this phenomenon, this study employs a qualitative descriptive approach conducted at Pasar Baru Trade Center in Bandung, Indonesia. Data were collected through semi-structured interview, direct observation, and documentation involving 7 MSMES owners from different business sectors, including textile, fashion, batik, and pilgrim equipment. The participants were using purposive sampling because they were considered able to provide relevant and in-depth information related to research objective. After conducting the interview, the data were analyzed using thematic analysis supported by NVPO software. The analysis generated a total 75 coding references, which were categorized into 4 main themes: digital barriers, platform capability, strategic innovation, and sustainability. Based on the coding frequency, digital barriers obtained the highest number of reference with 27 reference, indicating that digital limitation remain the most significant challenge faced by MES. Meanwhile, sustainability received 18 references, platform capability received 16 references, and strategic innovation received 14 references. This finding indicate that although SMEs have started adopting digital platforms, overcoming digital barriers remain an essential factor in supporting strategic innovation and achieving sustainability. Really. The finding reveal 4 important themes. First, regarding digital barriers, many MSMEs still face limited digital literacy, rely on manual selling methods, and make limited use of digital technology. The second one is in terms of platform capability, many MS have begun utilizing digital platforms such as Shopee, Tokopedia, Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, and live streaming to expand their market reach. Third, this digital platform encourages strategic innovation, including product innovation, digital marketing innovation, and the integration of online and offline sales channel. And finally, MSMEs that consistently implement this innovation, this demonstrates stronger business resilience and greater sustainability compared to those relying solely on conventional business practice. And next, and this is the proposition result. This study examined 3 research proposition. The first proposition is suggest that digital barriers limit strategic innovation. The findings is partly confirmed this proposition because digital barriers do not completely prevent innovation. Some MSMEs continue to innovate despite having limited digital capabilities. The second proposition is support the finding that indicated that platform capability enables SMEs to be better understand customer needs and support innovation through digital platform. And the final proposition is also partially confirmed. The strategy innovation contribute positively to MSMEs sustainability, although its impact varies depending on each MSMEs ability to continuously innovate. Okay, this is the result and discussion. The finding provide three important insights. The first is digital barriers remain a major obstacle for MSMEs in implementing innovation. The second one is platform capabilities strength strategic innovation to helping MSMEs reach more customers, improve customer engagement, and develop more innovative marketing strategies. The third is strategic innovation is the key mechanism that converts digital capability into long-term business sustainability. From theoretical perspective, this study is extended to research-based view by demonstrating that platform capabilities serve as a strategic research, while strategic innovation function as bridging capability connecting digital sustainability. So the conclusion is, theoretically, it extends the results-based view by strategic innovation as the bridge between platform capability and MSME sustainability. Practically, MSMEs owners should continually strengthen their digital capability and constantly implement innovation in product marketing and sales. Policymakers should also provide a digital literacy program and innovation support tailored to traditional MSMEs. Finally, future research is encouraged to validate this model using quantitative methods with larger samples and different traditional market setting. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you, Ayu, Melinda, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I request all our participants to put your questions in the chat box. It will be answered by the speaker. Moving forward with our next presenter, Yanbing He, Department of Marketing and Strategy, Hasselt University, Belgium. Topic: Online health communities preventing users from discontinuation. Yanbing He is not with us, but he has shared his presentation with us, and I would like to present on his behalf.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here. My name is Yanbing He, and I'm a PhD candidate at Hasselt University in Belgium. This presentation is based on a joint project with my supervisor, Professor Alad Vazil, and my co-author, Professor Sandra. Today, we are going to talk about online health communities. We'll look at a problem that most studies tend to overlook. We spend so much time and energy trying to figure out how to get people to join and stay on these platforms. But What about the people who quietly walk away? That's exactly what I want to focus on today. Why users discontinue and what we can do to stop them. Before we get into the heavy data, just a quick word about my background. I'm currently a PhD candidate at Hasselt University in Belgium, and my work centers around digital health and service research. Broadly speaking, I look at how value is built up or broken down when users interact on digital platforms, and how these platforms can improve societal well-being. But for this study, I really want to trace the psychological steps that led a user to quit a community. I combined the survey data with PLS-SEM to map this out. But instead of diving into heavy statistics right now, let's just straight into what the study actually found and what it means for these platforms. Let me give you the whole story in a nutshell. We all know that online health communities only work if members actively participate. Yet users discontinuation is a great problem. People join, they go silent, and they quietly abandon the platform. The research gap we noticed is quite simple. Everyone is studying how to make people stay, but but almost no one is planning why they leave. We argue that leaving isn't just the opposite of staying. It needs its own explanation. So we built a model to look at the negative appraisals that push people out. We collect 262 valid responses from 2 Chinese platforms and analyze them using PLS-SEM. Long story short, our model explains 83% of the variance in users' intention to discontinue. Today, I want to share what those key drivers are so that the platform managers can actually do something about it. Online health communities are places where people can go to look for health information, share their own medical experience, or just find peer support. They are truly become a massive public resource, and they do a world of good. They empower patients to manage their own health, especially for some chronic patients. And they help people feel less isolated, and they even make doctors' lives easier by creating better informed patients. But all of this value depends entirely on one thing: the continuous participation. The platform only works if people keep using or showing up. Unfortunately, the reality is that a lot of these communities struggled with engagement. Users go silent, they stop checking in, and then eventually they abandon the platform entirely. And once a community goes cold, it cannot generate the value anymore. This brings us right to the research gap. If you look at the literature, almost everything asks, why do people stay? And there's unspoken assumption that leaving is just the opposite of staying. But we argue that that's not true. The psychological reasons to make you quit a service are fundamentally different from the reasons that makes you stick. Leaving diverse its own explanation. To unpack this, we leaned on a classic framework from psychology, the theory of reading action. In other words, it says what you intended to do is driven by two things, your own attitudes and the social pressure around you. So we set out to answer these three core questions. First, how do perceived risks, perceived costs, and a lack of benefits drive people to leave? Second, how do these negative thoughts combine into an actual attitude? And finally, are there factors like reciprocity or uniqueness that make these relationships stronger or weaker? So how did we actually test this model? We conducted a quantitative survey with active users on two of the biggest open online health communities in China, the HealthDev and WeDoctor. We carefully back translated and pre-tested our skills and ended up with 262 valid responses. To analyze the data, we used PLSSEM. If you look at the sample profile on the right, our respondents were mostly working age, digitally literate adults between 25 to 44, which perfectly matches the typical user's profile of these health platforms. Now let's go to the heart of the presentation, our structure model and what the data actually told us. As we look at the diagram, you can focus on the lines. The solid arrows are the passes that are statistically significant, and the faded dashes ones are the ones that basically fell flat. Let's start on the left. We expected 4 independent variables to drive a negative attitude: perceived risk, perceived costs, and the lack of benefits, and the lack of reciprocity. But there's a big surprise: risk and costs didn't matter. They weren't significant. What carries the entire weight was the lack of positive benefits. In other words, when others saw on a community, they aren't thinking about what could go wrong or how much time they are wasting. They are simply realizing, I'm just not getting anything out of this anyone. Even more striking was the lack of reciprocity. When people feel like they are giving about getting nothing back in return, that breaks the give and take, went straight to a negative attitude with a massive effect of 0.52. On the flip side, we found a small silver lining: perceived uniqueness. When users feel the community offers something they literally cannot find anything else, it generally holds them back from wanting to leave. Finally, look at the right side. The negative attitude combined with subjective social norm strongly predicts the intentions to leave, explaining 83% of the variance. Oh, and by the way, we tested for moderators effects, but none of those complex combinations show up in the data. So what's the big takeaway here? Two main things stand out. First, users just communicate by the value that is missing and not by the risk they are worried about. Second, feeling like social give and take is broken, a massive psychological trigger that makes people want to quit. The good news for platform manager is that both of these are things you can actually fix. If you run one of these sites, the data says make sure people see immediate value, proactively surface high quality content, even for the lurkers who just read, don't post. Next, make sure that your active contribution feel recognized and rewarded so the exchange feels fair. And finally, constantly remind your members of what makes your platform unique. Of course, every study has limitations. Our data is cross-section. It's a snapshot in time. We measured what people intended to do, not their actual final exists. And we looked specifically at open Chinese platforms. So to wrap up everything, if there's just one key takeaway I hope you leave with today, it's this: a shortfall in expected value and a breakdown in reciprocity are the core reasons why users turn against a community and decide to leave. Now looking ahead, this opens up some really exciting directions for future research. First, to bridge the gap between what people say and what they actually do, we need longitude designs to track real-time exists behaviors rather than just the intentions. Beyond that, it would be fascinating to see how this dynamic plays out across different cultures, or when comparing open platforms to more closed private communities. We also want to dig much deeper into the qualitative steps of why reciprocity carries such a massive psychological weight. And finally, a methodological note, we plan to refine our measurement skills to better separate the fine lines between attitudes, social norm, and intentions. Before concluding my presentation, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to my co-author and my supervisor. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And moving forward, our next presenter, Min Thet Tun, Master of Economics, International Program, Thammasat University, Bangkok, Thailand. Topic: Vehicle electrification and passenger vehicle prices in Thailand. Evidence from the EV 3.5 policy period.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mitathon, and I am a master student in economics at Thammasat University, Thailand. Today, I'm very pleased to present my research paper. This paper is same with my master thesis, entitled Vehicle Electrification and Passenger Vehicle Prices in Thailand, Evidence from the EV 3.5 Policy Period. This study investigates the factors affecting passenger vehicle prices in Thailand and examine whether the EV 3.5 policy period is associated with changes in the related prices of electric vehicles. Thailand has been actively promoting electric vehicles through the EV 3.5 policy, which is introduced in 2024. The policy provides purchase subsidy, tax incentive, and incentives for the domestic EV production. Although these measures mainly target the new vehicle market, they may also influence the prices of used passenger vehicles. At present, there is limited empirical evidence on how EV policy relate to the pricing of used vehicles in Thailand. Therefore, this study aims to provide new evidence on the issue by examining the relationship between EV 3.5 policy period and used passenger vehicle prices. This study has two main objectives. The first objective is to identify the determinants of passenger vehicle prices in Thailand. The second objective of this paper is to examine whether the EV 3.5 policy is associated with the changes in the related prices with battery electric vehicle BEV and hybrid or plug-in electric vehicle, which is known as the HEV and PHEVs. And in my study, I use a cross-sectional data set of 5,438 passenger vehicle listing, which is collected for the Motorist Thailand online marketplace. This Motorist Thailand is a car dealership website. The sample includes ICE vehicle, BEV, HEV, PHEV manufactured between 2010 and 2025. The dataset contains information on vehicle prices, technical specification, body style, brand origin, model year, and mileage. After removing incomplete observation, the final dataset was used for the empirical analysis. And this study applies the hydronic pricing model, which is developed by Rosen in 1974. The basic idea of the hydronic pricing model is that the price of a product reflects the value of its observable characteristic. In this study, the dependent variable is the natural log of the vehicle price. The explanatory variable includes the characteristic of the vehicle, such as horsepower, vehicle dimension, city capacity, body style, vehicle technology, brand origin, and model year. 5 regression models are estimated. Model 1 is the baseline model. Model 2 is the preferred certification because it includes the interaction times for the EV 3.5 policy period. Model 3 and Model 4 are Robner checks that exclude different phase effects. Finally, Model 5 adds the vehicle mileage as an additional control variables. This table presents the descriptive statistic of my study. The data set of my study include 5,438, as I mentioned, and it is the used vehicle, used passenger vehicles. The average leased vehicle price is approximately 812,000 Thai baht. Vehicle have an average horsepower of about 162, an average mileage of approximately 97,000 kilometers, and an average model year of 2017. The sample is mainly composed of conventional ICE vehicle, while BEV and HEV represent a relatively small share of the observation. Overall, the dataset provides sufficient variation for estimating the implicit value of vehicle characteristics. And this slide represents the main conclusion of my study. I tested with the total 5 models. Across all model specification, the estimated coefficient remain relatively stable, suggesting that the findings are robust. The preferred model showed that the horsepower has a positive and statistically significant effect on vehicle prices. This indicates that vehicles with more powerful engines generally have a high market values. Vehicle width and seating capacity also have positive effects on prices, while vehicle height has a negative effect. And although vehicle length is not as statistically significant after controlling for other characteristics, The result also showed that SUV, sedan, and van are higher than the pickup vehicle. In addition, newer vehicles and vehicles from premium brand origin generally command higher prices in the used vehicle market. And also, this slide presents the main finding of my study. The interaction trend between the BEV and the EV 2.5 policy is negative and statistically significant. A similar negative relationship is also observed for the HEV and PHEV. This finding suggests that the relative prices of EV became lower during the EV 2.5 policy period after controlling for the vehicle characteristic and fixed effect. However, it is important to note that this study used cross-sectional data. Therefore, this finding indicate the statistical association rather than the causal relationships. And to examine the reliability of my findings, 3 additional model specifications were estimated. For the Model 3 exclude the model year fixed effect, and the Model 4 exclude the brand origin fixed effect, and the Model 5 does not materially affect the estimated policy effects. And for my for my study have several policy implications. First, this finding suggests that Thailand EV support policy may improve the price competitiveness of used electric vehicle in addition to encouraging new vehicle adoption. This result also indicates that traditional vehicle characteristics remain the primary determinant of used vehicle prices. Policymakers should therefore be consistent both for new and used vehicle market when designing the future EV support measures. As a conclusion, traditional vehicle characteristics continue to be the primary determinant of passenger prices in Thailand. The research showed that traditional vehicle characteristics remain the primary determinants of vehicle prices. In addition, the preferred model indicates that the EV 3.5 policy period is associated with relatively lower prices of BEV and HEV after controlling the observable characteristic. Although the study cannot establish causality, the finding provides new evidence on the relationship between EV policy and the use of passenger vehicle market in Thailand. And so thank you very much for your attention. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Mintet Tung,
Okay.
for your great work and research. And of course, your presentation was amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And moving forward, I would request all our participants to put your questions in the chat box, and the speaker will answer them. Moving forward with our presenter, Farzana Naz Swarna Prova, Department of Theatre and Performance Studies, Shati-e Kazi, Nazrul Islam University, Dhaka, Bangladesh. Topic: Online health communities preventing users from discontinuation. Ms. Farzana?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Is everything is okay?
Yes, yes, perfect.
You were watching and you were able to see my slide.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to begin by thanking the organizers of the Bangkok International Conference on Social Science and Humanities for giving me the opportunity to share my work. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Farzana Naz Swarna Prova. I'm working as an assistant professor in the Department of Theatre and Performance Studies at Jatiyo Kabi Kazi Nazrul Islam University, Bangladesh. Okay, let me start with a simple question. When governments fail during a crisis, why do these failures keep repeating? We have more data than ever, more advanced technologies, and increasingly sophisticated government systems. Yet, we continue to see delayed decisions, ignored warnings, and unintended consequences. That made me wonder whether these patterns are actually much older than our modern institutions. Now come to my paper. My paper is titled Narratives of Failure, Myth, Decision Ecology, and Contemporary Crisis Governance. My paper explores that possibility by bringing mythology into conversation with crisis governance. So let's begin with the problem. Okay. Now I'm sharing my research design. From time constraints, I'm just showing my research design. I am not explaining this. Okay, now let's go to the next slide. So let's begin with the challenge that motivated this research. Today, crises rarely occur in isolation. We are dealing with climate change, pandemics, economic instability, political conflict, and rapidly evolving technologies, often all at the same time. When these crises unfold, we usually explain governance failure in familiar ways. Weak institutions, poor coordinations, or a lack of resources. And those explanations are certainly important. But as I looked across different crises, I noticed another recurring pattern. Time and again, decisions come too late. Critical warnings are ignored. Technologies produce consequences nobody intended. And sometimes policies succeed recording to one measure while creating even bigger problems somewhere else. So became the question became, are these simply administrative failure, or are they symptoms of deeper patterns in the way humans make decisions? To explore that question, I turned to an unexpected source, that is mythology. Okay, I'm skipping literature review because I'm sharing the slide, but I'm not talking about my literature review. We have a shorter time. Okay, uh, now I'm introducing my theoretical framework. This brings me to the central concept of my paper, decision ecology. When I looked at these myths, I wasn't interested in them simply as stories. I approached them as cultural records of how societies think about power, knowledge, responsibility, and failure. Scholars such as Campbell and Levi-Strauss have long argued that myths preserve recurring pattern of human behavior across time. Building on that idea, I propose decision ecology as a way of more understanding how decisions are actually made. The framework suggests that every decision emerges from the interaction of five elements: institutions, information system, power structures, culture, beliefs, and human cognition. In the worst, decisions never happen in a vacuum. They are shaped by the broader environment in which people think, act, and exercise authority. This perspective allows us to read myths not simply as literary narratives but as models that reveal recurring patterns of governance and decision making. Okay, my research question. I have two major research questions. How does myth contain recurring patterns of decision making failure? Second one is, can myth provide an effective descriptive model for contemporary crisis governance? My research is it is a qualitative research, and source I use primary and secondary. And I am showing you my methodology. I always selected 4 Miss, Hamlet, Cassandra, Daedalus, King Midas, and analytical process was comparative narrative analysis. Okay, I'm going next. With my framework, with that framework in place, I then asked a simple question. Can different myths help us understand different kinds of governance failure? To explore this, I conducted a comparative narrative analysis of 4 well-known stories. Each one represents a distinct pattern of decision failure that continues to appear in contemporary governance. The first one is Hamlet, which illustrates decision delay. The second one is Cassandra, who represents signal rejection, where accurate warnings are ignored. The third one is Daedalus, whose story highlights unintended consequences, showing how successful technologies can generate new risk. And finally, King Midas, who represents hyper optimization, where pursuing a single objective to aggressively undermine everything else. Let's look at each of these patterns in turn. Let's begin with Hamlet. Hamlet is often remembered as a character who simply cannot make up his mind. But if we look more closely, the problem isn't lack of information. He already knows who murdered his father, yet every piece of evidence leads him to seek even more certainty. He questions the cost, stages the play to test Claudius, and even hesitates when he finally has the opportunity to act. In decision ecology, this is a failure of decision making rather than information. The issue is not what Hamlet knows, but how he processes uncertainty. Daniel Kahneman would describe this as less aversion paralysis, where the fear of making the wrong decision becomes more powerful than the need to make a timely one. And importantly, the consequences extend far beyond Hamlet himself. His hesitation gradually destabilizes the entire Danish court and ultimately leads to its collapse. We can recognize the same pattern today in delayed response to climate change or pandemics, where the greatest failure is often not making the wrong decision but waiting to look to make any decision at all. Okay, the second pattern is illustrated by Cassandra. Unlike Hamlet, Cassandra's problem is not uncertainty. She knows exactly what's going to happen and repeatedly warns the people of Troy. So, why does the disaster still occur? The answer is that the failure is not informational, it's structural. Cassandra has knowledge, but she lacks authority. Her warnings challenges existing beliefs and power structures, so they are dismissed rather than acted upon. In the in the decision ecology, in the decision ecological framework, this is what I call signal rejection. Accurate information exists, but the system is unwilling to recognize or legitimate it. This pattern feels remarkably familiar today. We have seen it in the early warnings about climate change, emerging pandemic, and financial crisis, where this evidence was available long before action was taken. The problem wasn't that the signals were missing, it was that they were ignored. The third pattern comes from the story of Daedalus. Daedalus is a brilliant inventor. His creation, with the labyrinth of his wings, he builds from himself and Icarus. Those were remarkable achievement of engineering. But the tragedy isn't that the technology fails. The wings worked exactly as intended. But the problem is that Daedalus assumes people will always behave rationally. He warned Icarus not to fly too close to the sun or too close to the sea. Yet Icarus's ambition overrides those instructions, and the consequences are catastrophic. In decision ecology, this illustrates unintended consequences. Risk doesn't arise because the technology is flipped, but because human behavior and the weird social content cannot be fully controlled. This echoes Ulrich Brecht's idea of the risk society, where many of today's greatest risks emerge from the very technologies designed to solve our problems. We can see similar patterns in AI, algorithmic system, and surveillance technologies. The invention itself may function as intended, but its interaction with human behavior often produce outcomes that nobody originally anticipated. The final pattern is represented by Kid Midas. At first glance, Midas seems like a success story. He gets exactly what he asked for. Everything he touches turns into gold. But that's precisely where the problem is begins. By pursuing a single objective above everything else, he loses sight of every other value that makes life meaningful. Even his daughter became another piece of gold. In the decision ecology framework, this is hyper optimization. A complex reality is reduced to one measurable goal, while everything else is treated as secondary. Daniel Kahneman reminds us that this kind of simplified thinking can lead to poor decisions, especially in complex environments where multiple values need to be balanced. We see this pattern in contemporary governance as well, whether it's economic growth pursued at any cost, algorithmic systems optimized for a single metric, or environmental policies focused only on efficiency, focuses in one dimension can create serious losses in others. The story of Midas reminds us that good governance is not about maximizing one outcome, it's about balancing competing priorities. So, what do these four stories tell us when bring them together? My argument is that these are not four separate types of failures. They are deeply interconnected. When important signals are ignored, decisions are often delayed. Those delays increase the likelihood of unintended consequences. And when governance becomes focused on optimizing a single objective, it can suppress the very warnings of might have corrected its courses. This is where the decision ecology framework becomes useful. Rather than looking at failures in isolation, it helps us see how institutions, information, power, culture, and human cognition interact to shape decision making. In that sense, these myths do more than tell ancient stories. They reveal recurring patterns of governments that continue to influence how contemporary societies respond to crisis. So, why does this matters beyond mythology? I believe this framework has practical value because these patterns are visible across many of today's most pressing governance challenges. In climate governance, in helps explain how ignored scientific warnings can lead to deeply policy response. In pandemic management, it shows how information, public trust, political authority, and decision making interact rather than operate independently. And in areas such as AI and biotechnology, it remains us that technical capability alone is never enough. Effective governance also requires anticipating how technologies will interact with human behavior, institutions, and society. My point is not that these formats explain every crisis, rather, they offer a different way of understanding governance failures, one that complement administrative theories by highlighting the cultural and narrative patterns that continue to shape human decision making. Okay, to conclude this paper argues that crisis governance is not only a technical challenge but also a cultural and narrative one. Through the decision ecology framework, myths such as Hamlet, Cassandra, Daedalus, and King Midas reveal recurring patterns of failure that continue to shape contemporary governance. I hope this framework offers a new perspective for understanding decision making and can be further developed through non Western mythologies and empirical case studies. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fazlana, for a wonderful presentation and brief description. I would request all our participants to put their questions in the chat box. Moving forward, I think we are done for today. Thank you everyone for joining us. With great pleasure and enthusiasm, I would like to conclude that the conference was a great success. Many people have contributed in different ways to turn this event into a smoothly running conference with every interesting presentations. This conference has resulted in good discussions and networking. I owe my gratitude to all the presenters and patient listeners, to the coordinators and the whole staff of Eurasia Research for their constant support. I would also like to thank all the universities and institutes who have sponsored our participants and people who have directly or indirectly contributed in the smooth conduct of this conference. Please note our upcoming conferences. In the month of August, it will be held in Kuala Lumpur. In September, London, Rome, Osaka, and in October, Istanbul, Bangkok. Please refer to your friends and colleagues. Thank you. I would request if anyone has any queries, you may ask, or you can just email us on our email ID, which is convener@eurasiaresearch.info. Thank you. Your certificates and receipts will be emailed to you within 2 to 3 working days, and the publication details will be shared with you over email. Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful having you all here. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Have a good day.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Hope to see you all again and keep connected.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.